Hello, good evening, and welcome to So Much Game. This evening, instead of Monday night's Worlds Without Numbers with Sofino for a little bit, we're going to be running Sunday night's Worlds Without Nye-mbers.
Yeah,
with
exactly. Hello.
Friend of the channel and person you've probably seen before if you've watched any of my videos or stuff we've done on Garblag, Nye, who's beneath me at the moment.
Hey, yeah, it's good to be back. Awesome.
And once again, I have the Worlds Without Numbers PDF up to the side of you, so you can all follow along at home. We'll start off pretty much the same way we did when I ran it with Sofino, by defining some keywords or tropes that basically form the backdrop of the world we're building, because that's the one thing that Worlds Without Numbers basically doesn't give you. It says come into it with these ideas of what the world is, and then from there on it gives you a lot of tools to build stuff.
Yeah.
We may or may not use the book depending on how far we get sidetracked just talking about stuff.
Exactly. Oh, that's going to happen.
Who watched the Battle
that
of
is going to
Kursk
happen. Yeah.
There's a good
happen.
chance. So yeah, I'll skip to page 117 just to get us started. The whole creating your campaign. Obviously, the Worlds Without Numbers book is intended to create campaigns specifically for things you're running. We're creating worlds because it's fun, and may one day run something in those worlds, but we'll see how things go. To start off with, shall we alternate keywords?
Yeah, I'm down for that. Be good.
Yeah.
Rather than just giving a block.
Yeah.
So my first word was Napoleonic.
Yeah. Ooh.
Yeah.
So what are you thinking Napoleonic wise? Like style of era, actual alternate history Napoleonic's era, or?
I was thinking of taking influence from that period of time. It is a period of time that I have been over the last couple. See, someone else finds it really interesting. For the last couple months, kind of been getting into. Like, if you've seen the Kursk thing, you know that I'm a bit of a nerd for World War II stuff and like World War I stuff as well. But that didn't come up. So I've been trying to get into other historical topics. But I'm wanting to take like the aesthetic and maybe a little bit of like the politics stuff, not the actual like setting or the actual people or history in that respect. So
a world in the style of the Napoleonic
exactly
era,
yeah. So firearms, but it's the muskets and flintlocks, a big sprawling war going on, lots of competing rivals, that kind of stuff,
with that sort of similar background of coming out of an era of large-scale revolutions and changes, or
yes. Okay, this is where my nerd comes in, because the big thing about the Napoleonic era that doesn't get talked about is that while the revolution is integral for its beginning and its end, or like when Napoleon finally fell from power, his actions influenced the revolutions because he spreads the ideas to what is now Germany and Austria and all that kind of stuff. So it's that kind of I really like the idea. Also mixing.
It's also basically the beginning of the end for the Austrians as like a super large.
Well, the Holy Roman Empire.
The Holy Roman Empire fell apart. That's it. It's done.
Yeah, pretty much.
And the end of the Habsburgs and
the rise of the Prussians as a military entity as well.
Yeah.
Mm. Oh wait, no, I think they were already pretty.
Well, they had been becoming basically in the 1700s was the start of Prussia as being important anywhere.
Yeah.
Because before that it was a Polish vassal state,
Mm-hmm.
and then obviously with Frederick the Great and the whole modernization, they started to become more and more important.
Because I know the Austrians and the Prussians formed an alliance against the French during their revolution, while Louis the 16th was still alive. And they actually kind of caused his execution because they basically said, I know.
He also helped cause. He's probably like if you pick him, Nicholas II and Charles I, he's probably the one who least caused his own execution. But still, he was just. He wasn't the ideal king for the situation.
No, not at all. It's just funny to me that like they kind of didn't know what to do with him, and like when you read about the French Revolution, they weren't like that pissed at him. But then the Austrians and the Prussians were like, "Oh, we're going to put him in power when we win," and it's like, "Oh no."
And the whole thing about actually finding letters like where he's conversing with obviously people who are essentially related to him in some way, and like,
exactly.
Hey, my wife's brother, do you mind helping us out a bit? And
who weirdly, because if this is such a weird thing, but like when they were having marital issues, and I'm putting quotations in there, it was the Holy Roman Empire that came in to help him, like give him coaching, and that is the weirdest history fact I know.
He was significantly more interested in going hunting than spending any time with his wife. So,
pretty much,
but and to be honest, he was more interested in going hunting than running France. So the whole situation was very
exactly.
But I always like that period as well, and actually, come to mention it, the war itself is very interesting because it goes from those 1700s kinds of wars where like 50,000 men in a field was extravagant and insanely large battles to the more Napoleonic era idea of like hundreds of thousands of soldiers fighting each other and that.
And people don't. Well, people do, but it. Oh, sorry.
Yeah. No, go for it. I was just going to say it has like a really large influence on the way Europe progressed politically.
Yeah.
From that point on, especially the sudden remarkable victory of revolutionary France.
Exactly. I think what people don't like really like because we're so used to it, and obviously Napoleon as a figure, whether you love him or hate him, I have like a half and half opinion on him as a person, but like people, I think because we've been so saturated with him as a figure in history, like if you're doing like a history spoof, you'll put Napoleon in, but he took over or conquered or influenced, whatever you want to call it, like literally most of Europe, like and I think that's an achievement or an infamy, whatever you want to refer to it as, which I think kind of gets diluted. It's like, oh shit, like they had to form 7 coalitions, and they fell apart not simply because he was very good. There was lots of reasons why they didn't stick together, but just kind of like
the first 3 were part of the French Revolutionary War.
Oh yes, of course, yes they were.
First 3.
Well, I mean, he was. I can't remember.
There were just so many coalitions at that point.
There were.
The only people who kept fighting were Britain. They were like, no, we really don't like this. But we're also overseas, so we don't care. You can't get us.
Austria, why did you give up? Oh, yeah, because you're really struggling, Britain, aren't you? We are. Russia, why are you giving up? Oh, yeah, you're really struggling, Britain. We are.
We are. We still control the sea, though. But
America, what are you doing? Nothing. Well, we're going to slap you around a bit, and then we're going to head back and defeat Napoleon. But that, and I hope if there is anyone watching this, of course there'll be tons of people. That's kind of what I'm trying to bring. That because like the political aspect is really interesting to me, and we are kind of joking, but it really is interesting, and I've just been really getting into that. Yeah,
definitely an interesting and very fluid era to put a world in, because like if you did play it with players, which is always like the end goal potentially
Exactly.
for what we're building. I mean, there's lots they could do, and they start off in this situation that is changing continuously anyway, so there's a lot of arcs that you can follow in that based on what the players find interesting and, you know, latch on to early on.
And at least for me, in my experience as GMing, wars make good backdrops because they're chaotic. There's a lot to do with alliances. Also, you can throw combat encounters up all the time and it doesn't come off as cheap. But like, seriously, and I would say personally, it also helps for like the looming threat or the background that's occurring. It just works really well. And oh my goodness. And I would say you don't have to be like a big thing that I'm always an advocate for, and we'll probably get into as we go on, is I'm a big advocate for not being a stickler if someone's not familiar with a field. Like when it comes to like academics, so like I really want to do dragons, but I've not spent 20 years researching the mythology of a dragon. Of course not. Pick up, you know, do what you think a dragon is, of course, or do what you think, or what you would think the Napoleonic era is. And so long as you're having fun and everyone else is having fun, then, you know, that's... If people aren't having fun, then that's a different story. But
that's the whole reason we play these games anyway. If one person is having fun and no one else is, then, you know, you need to rethink how it's being being run.
I hope that
it's going, and
I hope my long-winded drooling over Napoleonic history is...
Well, I get the impression we're probably going to sidestep into Napoleonic history every now and then as we build this world, as it will probably come up.
Yes, very much so.
Which is fine. That's like that. I mean, that's all free airtime for me. I can just let you tell people interesting things, and I sit back and admire it.
So what's your first prompt?
My first one was high magic.
Oh, okay. In the context, is high magic a reference to high fantasy, or is it a reference to something
very much like just throwing words together and like forcing people to come up with something?
No, it's great.
Initially, I was sort of thinking of it as more in the sense of very potentially powerful magic that can like change quite a lot.
Okay, interesting.
Therefore not necessarily being something that's easily accessible, but magic itself will have like an important effect if it's used.
Yes. It's definitely that is an aspect of high fantasy. It's like magic. Magic is this like force, and it's not as easily explained, and it's very ethereal. I think the classic example everyone obviously goes to is like Lord of the Rings, where it's like, oh yeah, there are people that can do magic. I mean, they do magic. He's a wizard. You know, like you don't need to
don't need to know anything.
It's not like.
I have an appendix for who everyone's related to, but not for this. Don't ask questions.
There's one thing I won't be doing. I'm not explaining how Gandalf casts spells.
But here is everyone Gandalf has met since time began.
That is very true. Yeah, that's always the daunting thing we get.
And how their languages work.
As I said, that is and to kind of make a comparison, obviously it's a different league, but when you talk about Tolkien, when you get down to brass tacks, Tolkien just really liked languages, and he thought, I'm going to make a language, and then in the making of that, he made Lord of the Rings. And I don't know, I kind of like that story because I just like the fact that he was a language nerd who was just like, ooh, this is how the elves speak, and you're like, oh.
I also like the bit where they're like, and he started writing it down because he was telling his son this bedtime story, and he couldn't remember. Like, he'd change up names and things, and his son would go, "Oh no, but that you didn't say that last time. You said that." So he started writing it down because even he couldn't remember who everyone was. But
yeah, that's great. I didn't know that part. I knew that he told it to his kids. Interesting. Okay, that is quite funny. That's quite inconsistent, Daddy. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right, here we go.
He was the first PM to ever be like, no, I have notes. I specifically wrote down the names of all of the characters, and that wasn't what you did last time.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay, that's awesome. I already have some ideas of how the high magic aspect can fit in. But I will go to my second one, which is necromancy. I'm fairly sure. Or did I say necromancy or necromancer? Doesn't matter. It's one of the words to do with magic that brings about.
Let me have a look, because I made a little document. Necromancy. So there you go.
Okay.
General necromancy, not a singular necromancer.
If I had to give a reason why, there's not always a grandiose reason. To me, always necromancy is a weird one, because I recognize why people like making it the evil thing, but at the same time, I always do feel like it's more a character rather than the necromancy in and of itself. So like the evil overlord is summoning the dead to do his bidding, and the bidding he's doing is not making crumpets and tucking in the woodland creatures, it's taking over the world. So I always wonder if it is possible to make necromancy less. Obviously it's always going to be a squicky matter because you're bringing
it's like if you fit it into the Napoleonic era. By the way, good evening, Diesel Shot.
Oh, hi, Diesel Shot.
You can take necromancy as the idea of, like, one of the nations might well have been losing and turn to necromancy to create enough forces for themselves to defend themselves, and then it's not inherently something they're doing that is the evil villain is creating the undead army to storm the world. They're trying to save themselves.
Yeah, it's a fit of desperation, but then it turns out zombies don't hold rifles well.
Information doesn't really matter if you have armies of zombies.
Brains! Oh, forgot. The brains are over there. Brains! Oh, for fuck's sake.
I imagine zombies are also fairly durable to musket balls, so you know.
Probably. But then I don't know. We can get into it later. I think it's interesting. As I said, I'm not an edgelord who's going to be like, yeah, necromancy's cool. But I think it's not good from a writing perspective or a creative perspective to take something that has always been one way and to only ever see it in that way, especially when it's something that is completely fictitious and can't happen. I.e., necromancy isn't real. I can understand someone saying about real things. But
Diesel Shot also points or makes a good point in the chat. There's in the vanilla Worlds Without Numbers magic list, necromancy can also be used for seances to like speak to the dead and stuff. And then you're using it to, for instance, help people get closure, to gain insight. To do
that's cool.
Because it is basically just like a catch-all term for controlling or communicating or interacting with the dead. So
exactly.
You know,
that
will actually lead back to a nice bit later when we start running through the backdrop world building.
Exactly. Already joined. So what's your second?
My second one is mud, because I like coming up with random words.
Mud's interesting. It's important.
Mud is interesting. It can be. The thing is, like, also what I like to point out with the words as well that you use is they don't have to fall into their defined meaning as we imagine them now. It could fit in at some point in a completely unexpected way. Like, now we're really thinking of Fields of Mud, probably, because
exactly.
But yeah, it could just as easily come in as like mud as a resource, or mud as a way of building houses. God knows what.
That's
but
true.
You know, yeah.
I feel there's a video game called Mud, but it's got like not asterisks.
Sure, wasn't there a children's television program called Mud back when I was young?
Probably.
That was so long ago. Yeah, you would know that.
You weren't even alive yet.
Finally, someone I can say. No, unfortunately, the list of people I can say that to gets longer every year.
See, but this is something. This is I find funny.
Sorry.
No, it's so I find funny because like you talk about when we talk about age and stuff, but because of the way humans are, like at your age now, there'll be people in their like 70s who think you're a baby. Like, I remember my mum was talking to quite an elderly man, and like she was talking about like, oh, I've been married for so many years, and he's like, oh, you're barely out your honeymoon. It's like, oh yeah, I guess for you it is. Yeah, you've been married to your wife for like 40 years. So yeah.
Like that was like when my son was like asked how old we were, and I explained it to him that we were essentially 11 times as old as him. He was like, wow, he was like, you're massively old. But
whoa,
yeah,
we haven't done multiplication yet. That's like rocket science.
That's what but being in your 30s in comparison to a 3 or 4 year old is completely
definitely
too, like there comes a time sort of you reach this generic age where everyone is lumped together in this age group, like it's your late 20s to into your 40s, and everyone's just like, yeah, you're all roughly peers, because so there you go. You can look forward to that soon.
Yay!
And that's me sneakily evading saying anything more about mud.
Of course. Well, who knows? Mud's Napoleon. Go very hand.
We had this thing when I recently did the series with Sofino. We also had this thing where one of the words he picked, I think, was dust.
Oh,
and to start off with, it seemed like, a generic, is everything dusty? Is it? But it's really been worked into the world quite well.
Exactly. So, yeah. I'll say my final one, which was espionage, and part of it was just simply because it fits with the whole political theme. Again, espionage is another thing that is not too difficult to write for, as long as you just use common sense. I need to hear things about this. It's a very, espionage has just always been a thing. As soon as two humans got together, a third one went, I want to know what they're saying, so got a fourth one to go over and find out. But it's just, I like it. There's not really any higher meaning than that. Perhaps we'll get into like court intrigue, or it could just be, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I like that one. Well, it ties in well with that sort of very fluid political situation.
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And potentially leads to players getting into all kinds of trouble.
Oh yes, yes. Trouble is what I want players to get into.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me.
But I like the idea of there being like these massive networks of spies for each nation, just continuously working against each other. That's the backdrop of the larger Napoleonic era style war, or whatever that's going on.
Yeah,
or even prior to that. I will then say my last word, which is bureaucracy.
Ah, yes. Hand in hand with everything we've talked about, bureaucracy.
Well, I don't know, like,
No, I mean,
as
serious,
opposed
like,
to Napoleonics, you know, it's the battle of nepotism versus bureaucracy. So, yeah.
No, I was being super serious. Like, I think bureaucracy fits well.
I know,
with
and
that aspect.
espionage, and I thought it would
Yeah,
tie in nicely.
I love it. Yeah.
Also,
okay,
I
cool.
love the idea of tying down players with like these boring bureaucratic NPCs that they have to occasionally deal with.
Bureaucracy is good for being an obstacle that is not insurmountable, but also, at least to me, fair. When you have a problem that is, it serves as a fair obstacle for us. So I think the classic one I always go for is, if the players are trying to do something that is not necessarily illegal, but definitely kind of skirting the law, rather than punish them, I always just say, oh yeah, sure, that's no problem. Just go see insert incredibly tedious bureaucrat character who's just
that's the fun. It also creates like nice social encounters for them as well.
Yeah. I mean, bureaucrats are fun to make fun of.
Yes, basically.
Yeah.
For all
hearts
you
go out to any
bureaucrats out there.
Yeah. Sorry.
Our hearts go out to you, but we will also make fun of you. There's it's your job. It's not you, service. It's your job. But thank you for your bureaucracy.
Okay, so we've got 6 pretty cool words. Yeah, I'm excited.
Okay. So how things start off is you plan out the scope, build a backdrop, and the scope is sort of also like, is it a sandbox that you're going to be running? Is it a set funnel or campaign? What's the world? What's its name? How physics run? But these are all things we're going to run through now.
Okay.
So I think the first thing we need to run through here is I've gone straight to world. Yeah. What is your campaign? Well, what is our campaign's scope?
Well, if we're fitting in with the Napoleonic aspect, and I would also say the high magic, because obviously if you're going for the kind of really big, crazy, powerful stuff that's unknown, and I guess bureaucracy and espionage kind of fit into this as well. I think it needs to be bigger than at one country, but not global. Because I always feel when you go global, it's a bit too much for the players.
Yeah,
I think
that's a question. Well, this is your first time with Worlds Without Numbers as a book, isn't it?
Yes, I've not used
so I probably should have given like a bit more explanation before I threw you in the deep end.
Okay.
But
no, it's alright.
So basically how it works is like a lot of the top end stuff you loosely define, and you start defining things more clearly and in greater detail around where your players are going to start, because that's really the only thing that you need to have like everything set about. But the backdrop itself is just, it could be as small as like a few keywords like, these two global empires are going at it, and people know they exist, and that's what we're going to work to now. So we're building down, but from like really high up. This can be loose ideas, a few keywords, a couple of sentences per question kind of thing, or whatever, however we see it. But it doesn't have to be the entire detailed history of every single country or nation or region in the world. Maybe it could be just the name of like certain places. This place also exists, but the players aren't going to be there straight away, so it doesn't matter. Basically, Kevin Crawford suggests always like you're prepping for the game you're playing, and the players what they're doing and not, you can world build all you want, which is kind of what we're doing. But so yeah, we're taking his work and then shredding it apart because that's just how we roll. But
exactly, yeah.
The idea is, you're prepping for what comes next for the players and not building entire worlds where large parts of it just sit there uselessly, idly, and may never be explored in the fantastic detail that you've built for them. So like one of the questions that's going to come up later is, not very much later, but are there global empires or groups? So we can sort of sideline it to that point and just, we could, as scope, you could say anything from, there's like this global Napoleonic era style war going on, or it's a setting of great intrigue, or God knows whatever you define as being the overarching scope, but defined in just a couple of sentences, basically.
Okay.
By the way, I'm also going to be typing away as you say things because I'm putting it all in the document so that we don't forget it all after.
Oh, right. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay, yeah. All right, okay. Okay. So I think the starting point then would be probably our version. I'll just come up with it, like our version of France, because obviously France is the one doing the influencing and all the warring and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's probably more interesting to start there.
Our version of a post-revolutionary France, or is it a country that's gone through these massive internal changes, or have they just come about this Napoleon-style leader who's decided, fuck it, I want the rest of the world?
Yeah, no, I don't know. Here's what I would say. I would say that
there might not be a war.
That's very true.
Building to that.
Yeah. Well, it's if I remember the piece of writing advice someone gave me. Oh, sorry. A piece of writing advice I got given was, what you want to do is you always want to make the story the most exciting point in your character's life. But I'm realizing now the problem with using that in the world building context is that depends on your hypothetical players and what they want. Personally, I kind of like the idea of setting it in the interim between once the revolution has ended, but before the kicking of butts starts, because that really fascinates me, because it's not really something people focus on. They more talk about more chaos, but not that kind of, I wouldn't call it peace, but that kind of weird in between. So that'd be interesting to cover. They've just come out of it, but now they're kind of sorting themselves out.
Sort of like Napoleon leading the General Assembly kind of era, pre-Napoleon becoming emperor.
Yeah. That kind of like, bit in between.
Yeah, okay.
So everyone's a bit on like pinpricks over these sort of things.
Of France.
I guess we'll need to name.
Oh well, we'll name it once we get down to it as a kingdom.
Oh,
so,
okay. Sorry.
There's so you start off with your backdrop. You move down to the region, like the actual region of focus for the potential campaign. But we don't have to see it as a campaign, and we don't really need to think about the players too much because they don't exist yet. And then from there on you go to like the kingdom level, and even the regions within that kingdom kind of level, and build things up like that.
Okay.
So
okay, cool.
You'll probably end up with one kingdom that's like really well defined with regions and things, and that's where the players start, and that's gonna be their kickoff point and the place they know. So that's what you've got to be able to give a lot of information about if they need it. but the other kingdoms, you'll have loose ideas. Like, you'll have a definition of how it works and stuff, but not, every single NPC that exists there from time immemorial. This world building session will be like more about the backdrop going on to the overarching world itself.
Moving
into the region that we're going to be covering.
Yeah, that works for me.
So our version of France, what are they currently up to?
They are rebuilding and kind of re-centralizing lots of parts of their rule, because they've just come out of this chaos. I would probably say that they're also... I would say that the revolution gave them time to get used to things like democracy and the rights of the people and stuff like that, but it's still a bit weird being not ruled by a king or a ruler of some description. Oh, gee whiz, I hope no one becomes an emperor anytime soon. Yoink.
And then after that, I hope no one becomes a king again. And then after that, I hope we don't get another Napoleon.
Oh, that would be terrible. And I really hope that Napoleon doesn't get really sad and just miserable all the time, like the last one.
Oh.
Okay.
Preferably doesn't lose to even more Prussians.
Yeah.
So the revolution gave them time to get used to democracy and the rights of people.
But that chaos has still, the rebuild of that chaos has still left the mark, so to speak. Like, all our ships are gone.
So that's going to be the kingdom where we're starting, probably.
Yes. Yeah.
How does the rest of the world see them? Because that's going to be important for the scope as well. Because they're this rebuilding, revolutionary style kingdom that is now democratic. Are their neighbours? Do they agree with that, or are they looking quite? Is that where this whole espionage war potentially comes in?
Yes.
Are they actively working against each other?
I would say that I think for simplicity, because obviously it's a lot easier to explain things, I think most of the other significant players are probably existing kingdoms who are not cool with this democracy bullshit, and they're like, whoa. And I don't think we need to go into the whole they came in to try and return it and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we don't need to actually rehash the history of revolutionary France.
Yes, basically they are seen as a pariah, whether or not that's because they had previous altercations or because it's up to wherever else we write. But yes, I think that would be a good way to annoy them.
Can we say that they're actively working against them in the shadows then?
Yes, I would definitely say that. There's definitely what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. No, I don't know. Okay. Malicious, that's it. There's definitely malicious forces in the shadows.
I'm just going to turn my light on for a second. So enjoy watching me do that. That makes for interesting.
No, that's fine. I hope whoever's watching is having a good time hearing us be history nerds once more. Yeah, that'd be fine.
I think I think chat has gone a bit quiet again.
Oh, I can't hear you now, Lewis.
Oh, sorry. I said I think chat has gone a bit quiet again.
That's okay. Well, for the YouTube as well, it's worth talking about this stuff.
True. So, we'll use that as an overarching scope.
Okay. Right, that makes sense.
Maybe put one line in about the world itself. Are these global? Is it on a global scale that things are happening, or are there regions separate to this that are absolutely have nothing to do with it, or is it like the late 1700s, early 1800s, in that the world is already starting to get a lot more connected?
I would say that because we're in this kind of interim period, this kind of piece, it seems like it's not very many other parts of the world's problem, but with the kind of ratcheting tension, it starts to look more and more like, oh no, if this kicks off, this is going to involve all of us, kind of thing. So perhaps, I guess, probably the second one you were saying, where the impression is that it's not going to affect other parts of the world, because, and this is where my history comes up, fun fact, the Napoleonic era, actually the 7 Years' War as well, which is the war that came before the Napoleonic era. Yeah,
highly important and gets.
But a lot of people see these as pseudo world wars because they were global. The reason why we don't call them that is because, well, lots of reasons, but the simple answer is just because at the time people gave them different names. So, but yes. I think that makes sense. Again, depending on how long this hypothetical campaign was to go, perhaps the players would see, like, oh, we heard about this place ages ago and we didn't think it was important, but now it is important because it's got roped into this whole shenanigans that's going on where we started.
Yeah. So I've defined it as the rest of the world seems at first like it's uninterested, but they also realise that the growing tension will probably affect them all if something happens.
Yep,
and
love
they're
that.
looking
That works
on
perfectly.
with bated breath.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, I love that.
Not actively involved at the moment per se, maybe a little bit under the radar, which doesn't exist yet. But yeah.
Yep. No, that works perfectly.
Right. So the second sort of question that comes out of that, well, do we need anything more? If I'll put that in there anyway, just in case, if we were going to run it for players, would you see it as a sandbox kind of campaign, or?
That's a tough question.
See, it's an interesting one because, like, with Sofino and me, we basically were straight off the bat going like, we'll run. It would be a sandbox because we both like running sandboxes. But
I do as well.
Yeah.
I would say I think it has the potential. Here's the thing: its greatest potential would probably be a more focused thing where you are actually people, like the players play movers and shakers within the kingdom that they're starting out as, or perhaps poor schmucks getting swept up in this ridiculous political fiasco.
They could be all kinds of like things, because obviously they sent bunches of diplomats and administrators and committees and all sorts of things to various places that were already under French dominion or control, and places that, like, to America, for instance, asking for help, which never came.
So definitely I think it would probably be at its best that. However, I think for the purposes of this, we'll use it as a sandbox because that's a lot easier to work with.
We could. There's also there is the potential of an in-betweenish sort of bit where you start off the first few sessions as a sandbox, but basically, I don't want to say shoehorn, but you throw out like 4 or 5 different directions they could follow on, and whichever one they bite onto turns into a campaign rather than.
Could also be like a ticking time bomb kind of thing, where it's like, they can, for however many sessions you want to give them, can just screw around, but like in this instance, the war is going to kick off. Like, there's very little they can do to prevent that. So it's, and then once that happens, this is where my
that'll also
narrative, it gives a narrative
what direction they take as well. Yeah,
because they might have just been being pirates and having fun, and then oh shit, the entire world is on fire now, and we've got to navigate it. Exactly.
Right. Yeah. Well, see, and then like if the players like the sandbox element of it, they could still continue on with that.
Exactly.
They'll just be interacting with a completely chaotic and very different world.
Exactly.
And if they want to get involved, you can create campaigns out of that.
Yeah, exactly. Totally.
Defined campaigns, because obviously a sandbox can be a campaign as well, because the adventures are those of the players choosing. But yeah. Okay, so I'll put it up as starting off as a sandbox with the ticking time bomb of the impending war. Okay. Do we have a name for the world?
I don't know. I always feel like...
Well, you can go about that in several different ways. You can just come up with something. You could grab a linguistic touchstone and then use that to create something. You don't have to define its actual name. You could define it by what it is as a campaign, as a world that you've created as well.
I don't know.
This is always the one, but that's always the difficult one to, especially to do live.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Go,
now
now
watch
what
me.
are we gonna call this place? And
we'll call it.
Who's that?
We'll call it Mert. Mert.
Are you sure you want to call it Mert?
Yeah, no, I definitely do. And you're making that face like, "Oh, I told the publicist." Oh, okay, it's Mert now. No.
So yeah, do you want to give it a name?
It would be okay if I hold off for now on names, because I am bad. I will do them before we end the stream. Like, I'll have a name in mind.
That's all right.
But
do you want to give it a placeholder at the moment instead?
Yes, we'll call it. I kind of want to call it Mert.
Nyland.
Nyland. No, that's egotistical. I can't do that.
I've already called it Worlds Without Nye-mbers.
Oh, really? Holy shit.
I called the episode that, yeah.
I didn't know that. Well, how do we call it? Fuck. Oh, it's actually really hard. I can't even come up with a place. Mert. Just go with Mert. It's dumb. It's a dumb placeholder. We'll just go with Mert. And if I don't come up with anything good by the end, Mert is what it's called.
I will call it the revolutionary state of Bert.
Bert. Okay, yeah, I like that. Not permanently, but just so it's there.
That's our placeholder.
I believe the thing I heard is you want to make it something that it's like a dog's name. It's got to be something quick and concise, and also something you wouldn't feel embarrassed shouting across a park. Which
isn't that essentially how you define children's names?
It is, yes, it is. It's how you, but it's a great way of defining naming things. It's like make it something easy and do not feel embarrassed about saying the name out loud. And it's like, obviously people's levels of embarrassment.
I'm seeing a hole in the market now. Like there's what we use to name our children is there's like an app that's basically like Baby Tinder. You both sync it, you get lists of names and swipe left or right, and then you end up with a list of names you both agree on. Like if you could do that for RPG names.
Is that thing you just described real? The baby naming thing?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
We named both of them that way.
Oh, really? Oh my goodness. Okay, I didn't know that.
No.
That would be. See, they have
Obviously,
random
the
name
story I tell people is that we're just both really big Tolstoy fans. Because Oliver and Miles, so it's like basically war and peace.
Exactly. Oh, okay,
peace
interesting.
And
war, okay, awesome.
And then people never talk to me again.
No.
Oh well.
I told you gotta leave the baristas at, I don't know, any Belgian coffee places. I presume you have Starbucks.
We have Starbucks as well.
Oh, you have Starbucks, yeah.
Just nowhere near us.
Oh well, yeah. I don't even know when the last time I saw Starbucks in Scotland. I'm sure we have them somewhere, but I never find them. Not that I want to, but regardless.
Other coffee is available, and probably better.
Yeah, much better.
And significantly cheaper. But yeah. So the revolutionary state of Mer.
Yeah, I will change the name.
We'll come up with something. Don't worry. By the way, Diesel Shot, if you want to have a stab at naming the revolutionary state of Mert, feel free.
RSM, I just realised that's what it says. RSM would be the analog. It's like HRE.
Yeah.
Okay.
The next question is, how are the physical laws defined? Are they the same like the natural laws? Are they the same as they are for us? Is there something completely different? To give you an idea, for instance, in the world I built with Sophinio, there is no single sun up in the sky. The world itself is like an orb surrounded by glass that is just got light shining in from every direction. So basically completely changes your world quite quickly.
It does. I have a thought, and it's a bit of a kind of out there, so I'll try and
That's the world we love to make. Yeah.
So the world itself is just a standard Earth-based setting, nothing too crazy. But what I was thinking, to integrate the high magic, what if we said that like there are there are like magical fields, right? I don't know how, fields as in like like a magnetic field. And these are channeled through perhaps an object or some kind of material that I have no idea. Don't ask me how that would work. I have no idea. And what has happened as a what's happened as a result is, throughout the centuries, humans have learned to harness that, and that's how nation states work. So literally they define where their borders are with these magical fields. And that's kind of how wars are fought. So it's defined by, well, our magical field has consumed and overtaken yours. That's how we've won. Cool. And that kind of encourages so maybe, I'll come out and say it, like maybe a hypothetical Britain analog would perhaps have, I'm just saying metal, because metal is easy to explain to people, but we could go any material. Like they've made like this scepter, and that lets them, so long as it's within its sphere of influence, they have better control of the sea. And that's how they're quickly becoming like this sea empire, because they can just go, right, the sea is now calm. But like when that field is not there, the sea is however it would normally be. I'm trying to think, because I like the idea of having, because then it fits in with the theme.
Yeah, that grabs the high magic theme. Mm-hmm. Like the war theme can fit into that as well. The Napoleonic era kind of theme can fit into that if it turns into this war. But it also gives you this large area for the espionage theme and
Yes.
bureaucracy theme as well,
And
because they're going to be important, because like in essence a lot of the important part of a war is going to be defined by these magic users pushing out the field.
Exactly. And to me, a big thing I do with world building, especially if we do put non-humanoid, other beings which are not humans, that are sapient or whatever, I'm fine. I'm a big proponent of making it clear that a nation state is a forged thing. It is created. It's not this like natural, because that to me is both boring and not really how this works. It's not true. And of course, when we create something, it comes from the real world, and we should recognize that for both ill and goodwill. So like when we see a country, we should recognize that it was formed by lots of different people. And I like the idea that the reason why they've set these boundaries and the magic fields are the way they are is because humans have made that choice. Again, for goodwill or ill, they've decided. And of course, somebody's going to be like, I'm the king. I have I'm going to keep calling it a scepter, but I'm happy to change the material.
But it could be a type of material that is scarce, that happens. Hyperdense rocks of some kind, minerals of some kind, that create these magical fields. And then obviously the obvious thing, if you one day, because I like to define nations coming into existence as at some point some arsehole decided he should be more important than everyone else and control
basically that is how
that's how nations existed or were created in the first place. But as that said arsehole, you're going to go, well, I want this magical rock put in my big scepter then, so that I can carry it around and everyone knows I'm in charge. Look at it, it's here. I'm the center of the country.
That's like the nexus point, which shoots up the thing, and then like a magic user would be someone that has like a very tiny piece of the stuff, and like that's how they're present.
So that they can connect to it in some way.
Perhaps.
Yes. Yeah. Great idea.
So I'm now thinking like metal or wood or some kind of material, something that can differentiate it easily. Because obviously, if it's all the same material, then somebody might say like, oh, well, why don't they just steal all of theirs? But if it's like, oh no, that's a specific wood that only this country has, like this sort of area, and they've expanded, etc. We don't have to worry about that.
What are now kingdoms? So each region has like a defining material, basically.
Well, I mean, when you get down to it,
kingdoms.
Well, if you look at this is where geography plays into world history, because every country tends to cut its borders at natural points, like rivers or mountains. So to me, it would make sense that like if you have a finite supply of something, or at the very least a limited stock, and let's say the magical field can only go as far as you have that material or a concentration of it, then that kind of helps naturally define it. But obviously, if you're awarding... Oh, sorry.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, because this idea that, borders can shift, then can we make it something that is sufficiently, organic, sufficiently alive that it can be grown?
Oh, what if it was trees?
Yeah,
and then
types of trees, and then as you take over areas with your armies and the help of this magical nexus, then obviously people are going to come along behind that and start planting these trees, because that's going to expand their field, and then they can say, well, see, this is our border now because the field comes to there. Or
you are an ally or a subsidiary of us because we planted so many of that. I really like that. But sorry. Go for it. To backtrack all the way, I think the idea when we're talking about like how this affects the physical world is that different plants, although trees probably the easiest, like have different effects. So, and countries use that to their own advantage. So again, as I said, like a British analog would probably be like sea or something ocean, and a French would be weather. Well, actually, no, the French analog would not be weather. That would be the exact opposite of what they had. But yeah, I don't know. We can think about that more when we get starting defining more specific things.
But also, like an idea of low level, like plants and things having some kind of inherent magicalness to it. They might not be all creating these large scale fields, but then you can also, you can have these very important plants that create the high magic fields that can manipulate geography itself potentially, and then these more smaller low level plants that can be used for mundane day-to-day magic and things. That is a lot more, is very set in its definition and stuff, and very smaller and neater, because obviously otherwise we're also kind of creating a world where it's difficult for players to be magical users without them inherently being connected to one of these nations and the nexus of that nation and whatever
that is also a big thing that I'm opposed to. Like, in terms of, like, when you see in fantasy novels where it's like, this is an elf, they clearly come from the elf nation and must want only the benefits of the elf nation. You're like, that's both not at all how you should write people and also really silly. Like, I totally agree. I think people, if you have characters, whatever, it should be their choice how, like, if they have magic that works and why they're in a certain place. I actually kind of like the idea they have like a little bubble around them that's smaller but still like have like a little bit of mistletoe or something, like for a ring,
that can be defined by a different plant or something that is inherently connected to them in some way, or
I think we've just made druids like the most useful because often druids are like
deserve it.
Well, they always are like the weird class that a lot of GMs never know what to do with.
Oh no, it's a dude who turns into a bear or something like that. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
They can do so much more.
But
they also have a shillelagh.
Exactly.
I just like that spell. And the actual stick with a piece of lead in it. That's completely beside the point. Sorry. I'm sidetracking us. Right. The next question is, are there any spirit worlds, alternate dimensions, novel planes of existence, or other cosmological locales generally associated with the world? I wouldn't mind throwing spirits in there, because that ties into the necromancy. Does it have to be world though? Well, there might be like a spirit plane. Yeah,
maybe they're like, if we're going with the fields thing, the magical fields are the more present, but there are other more ephemeral and harder to see ones that don't affect the physical world directly, but are still kind of there. Oh god, we've just turned our planet into like one big bubble. It's like, it's like a gobstopper. It's like with all the layers and stuff.
It's like a reverse gobstopper because you eat from the inside out.
Oh god. Yeah, no, I like that. I personally am not opposed to like when people do like a multiverse kind of thing, though what I will say is it can just kind of end up being a bit too much. I don't know, I like a spirit world, definitely. Perhaps if there are other No, I don't know actually. No, I think a spirit world, at least for me, is sufficient. But if you want to add more stuff, I'm fine with that.
I mean, we can add these sort of ethereal planes as they exist, but they're harder to reach than the magnetic, the sort of magical field, and then the spirit world, which might be the next layer over. Then anything above that potentially exists, but maybe no one's ever been there because it's so hard to get to. No one has ever achieved whatever is necessary to get there. So they may exist, but who knows what's there, and there's a good chance the players will never know either. And then it also doesn't need to be defined in great detail. Let me just type that out quickly. There we go. And then we get to the one I mentioned before. Let me save that quickly. Are there any grand global scale empires or groups that impinge on the campaign scope? Is our idea of our revolutionary state of Mert, is it a global state?
I think it's like...
Are there others?
How about we say this, because again, this is probably where we'll have to kind of fudge it a little bit, because the colonial empires at this time existed, but they weren't what people...
Oh, yeah.
I think that's the thing. So perhaps we say... I was
also going to say, like, we don't have to do that anyway.
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm going to say probably not global. No, that was my long way of saying. Sorry. Largely, again, and for anyone listening, I've found, especially because I really like history, and I'm a weirdo, and a lot of my players don't like history as much as I do. A really important thing to do, even if you in your head have like this encyclopedic knowledge of a subject, you have to always remember that a lot of people may only know the subject through media and shorthand, and it's a lot better to play into that. And obviously don't insult someone's intelligence, don't dumb things down. I really dislike that, but always try to understand where your players, or if you ever create something else, where your audience comes from in that respect. At least that's my advice. You've always got to compromise, because you might have a complete understanding of the agricultural system of 17th century France, but most people might just be familiar with like sheep and shit.
To be honest, 17th century France didn't have a complete understanding of their
no, that is very
system. It's defined by region, and
so
depending on who you are and what concessions you've gotten over the years.
Pretty much, yeah. So, but there's a long way of saying that. I think when people think of empire, they think of the British Empire circa just before the 20th century, which is not,
also definitely not the Napoleonic era.
Not at all. And also, if I'm speaking personally, all empires are pretty evil. And I personally am not super cool putting my players like, hey, you're working for the bad guys. Oh, yes. Sorry. There's no... Apologies to everyone there who wants to talk about good empires, but to me, they're not good things, so I tend not to encourage. Or if they are there and they're not villains, I often make them incompetent. So it's like, they're barely holding together, because conquering all these people and telling them to do what you tell them tends to upset people. They tend to go, wait a minute, why am I listening to you? Oh yeah, that's fine. So yeah, no global spanning empire, if preferable. No, there are other places out. Yeah, there are other places outside the purview of this kingdom we're looking at, but they just don't own them.
1 second, sorry.
No problem. everything all right?
Yep. Just Litland's having, well, the eldest actually, is having a bit of trouble sleeping.
Right, okay. Oof.
Yeah. By trouble, I mean blatantly refusing to sleep and then about it,
right.
so, yeah.
Yes. Oof.
It was fun.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. So no global empires then.
Yes.
Right.
Because it's not within the. We're already probably going to do. War is pretty shitty for everyone that's got to fight it. It's probably not putting on top of their and empires suck. Like, you know, keep the shittiness to one sector of shittiness.
Yeah. There you go. There's because also creating global colonial empires creates a lot of other things that we may not want to define about our world.
Exactly.
Well, introduce into our world.
Yeah.
And
it is a worthy social. Yeah, it's a worthy social commentary, and I highly recommend people explore that in a safe and honest and right way. However, we're two nerds creating a fantasy world, and it's definitely not our place to be talking about those things here. So
also the advantage of creating a thing rather than using something that already exists is you can define it completely yourself, and you're not required to repeat the efforts and mistakes and ideas.
It's part of the reason. Yeah, it's part of the reason why I didn't want to do an alt history. Yeah.
So I'll just add that as no global empires. Are there any global spanning groups though? Like they could be trade groups.
Well, the potential opposition to Mert could be rather large, obviously, because I think that's interesting. Having different powers jump in and out of this kind of not so much a great alliance, but definitely like we're an alliance. Oh wait, why are you leaving? We don't want to be in the alliance anymore. Oh, we're back. Hello. Oh, we're gone again. That kind of like thing.
This is where the coalition style.
Well, think another way to think about it is think of the Entente in the First World War, and I've just realised I've lost the Napoleonic viewers by my. No, I'm joking. If for those who don't know, the Entente, a lot of people misrepresent it as this like super tight best friends club forever. In reality, it was, hey, we'll help you if you get fucked over by people we don't want to get more powerful, but we're not. Like, if you start getting more powerful, then there'll be trouble, kind of thing, And then afterwards, it became more close, if you will. Why do we have to help Russia? Because Russia can't lose, okay? Okay. No, be nice to each other.
So the potential opposition to the revolutionary state of Mert is a large-scale coalition. I'm going to put large-scale loose coalition.
Yes, that's a good way.
Of states. And come and go as they deem necessary.
Sorry, I don't think I caught that.
Who come and go as they deem necessary or useful for themselves.
Sorry, I misheard.
Yeah, there we go. Then the world itself. How interconnected are the various parts of
I would say that... actually, this could be... I'm thinking. I would say that they have definitely achieved the ability to travel the world. How quickly and how efficiently they can, I think, is the question. Because if we're doing Napoleonic, if we're doing Napoleonic, sorry.
No, go for it.
I was gonna say if we're doing Napoleonic, it's definitely the world is at the point now where you could go to say, the equivalent of the poles, like north, south, whatever. However, how quickly you could get there is a different matter. So it's like, oh yeah, we can go to the other side of the world. It'll take us months. And it's probably going to be really difficult to not have people die on the journey. Because we'll run out of water or lemons or vitamin C would be from the lemons.
Well, one second again, sorry.
It's absolutely fine. Don't worry about it. Okay. No bother. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think see this thing now that because Lewis isn't here, I was thinking maybe going like like airships, but there are two reasons why I'm opposed to that. One, they're really cliched, and I don't really fuss too much about tropes and cliches because personally I think that it's your investment, and if you put a spin on things and you put your own impression, then they don't matter so much. But on the same wavelength, like post-medieval fantasy worlds always to me come off like, oh, we want to put airships in because you don't see them. And now even like a lot of like pseudo medieval worlds have them. And also I feel like the naval stuff in both in the Napoleonic context and just in general, like the Age of Sail is fascinating enough in its own right that you wouldn't have to worry so much, if that makes sense, about the... Yeah, I think I'd rather go for Navy, but perhaps with the advent of of the magical plants, it's a lot more gilded, if we will, because obviously, again, another thing that happens when you get really fixated on historical accuracy and all that kind of stuff is you don't want, like, if your adventurers are on a boat, it's like, now, did you pack enough vitamin C and non-perishable goods? Yeah. No. Well, you're going to die. Like, that sucks. So maybe, actually, if we're going with plants, perhaps the ships they make out of the wood are in some way imbued with their own kind of little field, and that can perhaps add some kind of factor to it. I don't know.
With the connection of magic as well, ships could potentially also just be significantly larger.
That is very true. Yeah,
enough area for growing crops on their way as well. And
I like that. Yeah. I like that a lot. I didn't think of that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think we should go with that. So
also, thank you for really ribbing on both of my book concepts.
I'm sorry. I steal from the best.
I just like basically everything you've ever written is fucking terrible.
No. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it like that. But as I said, if you put a spin on all this stuff, it does come off as your own. Everything has already been written, so you've got to put a spin on things. The thing that I have an issue with, especially when it's in TTRPG circles, especially when you use it in the context of D&D, love D&D, but the problem is that it's very easy for players to just shrug and go, I've seen that, and it's like it's a bit disheartening as a GM when it's like, oh, and that's not fair. And if you are a player, don't do that. Don't do that to GMs. It's a bit harsh. If you do feel that the world is rather samey or disinteresting, then there's more constructive ways to introduce that. Don't just dismissively, unless of course they're very rude. If they're a rude GM, that's a
whole different thing. Yeah. Probably
whole different social interaction.
Basically, as a GM myself, GMs are also playing the game, so be nice to them.
Yeah.
But as a GM to other GMs, make sure your players are having fun. So
exactly. Yeah.
It's the same as writing. Sometimes you're going to have to murder the heck out of your darlings.
And sometimes, as I said, I know people don't like the term compromise because it has negative connotations, but in this instance, I think it is fair. Everyone has a story in their head. The trick is communicating it to others. That's all art is. It's communicating between the artist and the audience, and that's basically what the compromise is. It's like that. To me, that's what absurdism that's what makes absurdism and like Dada it's the basically going, we're not going to try and translate any of what this is, all just coming from the brain, and if you don't like it, then that's up to you. But yeah, like, sorry, I feel bad now that I was talking bad about your world. I didn't mean it like that. I like your
I mostly meant it as a joke. I mean, I'm only going to cry about it for 2 hours after.
Oh no, Daddy, why are you crying? Oh, this mean person on the internet.
This person I know on the internet doesn't like things I wrote that no publisher in the world likes either, so don't worry.
Okay, but
no,
yeah,
I'm
that's
making it sound really sad.
The reason why though, I just want to say it's because I understand the appeal of adding like air-based travel, and to be clear, I've done it in my worlds as well. But the reason I get a bit opposed to it is just because it always feels like the go-to, like, ooh, my fantasy world is not like all the others. The same as adding guns. Yeah. Which we've already. So I think I'm happy to put air travel in there, but it is definitely more like balloons and
that's
bigger balloons.
Napoleonic
yes,
anyway,
exactly.
So, yeah.
And you definitely wouldn't want to travel in a balloon.
Yeah.
You go up in the air, then you come back down. There's no like going around the world kind of business yet.
No. Actually, that was interesting because that was something I will be using in my book as well, like the idea of using balloons that basically go up and down also as signalling to air traffic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because
exactly. Yeah,
you have to have some way of like communicating. But,
yes.
Yeah.
It's the reason why we don't have well, it's part of the reason why flying cars are not a thing, because how would you manage sky roads? Exactly. Yeah. Regular air travel is already incredibly complicated.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. If you get to work 4-hour days, you know.
No, come on.
Well
I'm just floating in inertia.
Retire at God knows what age as you slowly shake from stress and leave your air traffic controlling job. Then it's pretty stressful as it is.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So I guess
alone hundreds of thousands of cars flying around all over the place.
I think this is a roundabout way of saying the world is connected. However, it is a naval. It's a sea-based travel is the only way to go long distance. However, where there is land, people can use carriages, horses, and their own 2 feet. But navy is the way, and it's actually makes me think it's almost like it kind of feels a little bit like a sleeper ship in like a sci-fi setting, where it's like, oh yeah, no, like we have a farm, like you live on the ship as it takes you to the destination.
That like it's gonna be I don't know how large this world is in your head and how far things are from each other, but it could well be several weeks travel, or even if we want to make it really big and thingy, several months travel, and then like growing crops on board would be, or farming on board would be quite useful, because then you don't have to have these stop off and refueling stations every so many nautical miles, because you can go somewhere in one long trek. It's just you have to work and live aboard these large ships.
Exactly. I like this and that.
I will write that down. So long distance travel by ship. I'll put in sleeper style ships. Obviously, like, we can also just watch the video back at some, or to pick things out if we need things later. So that's the advantage of putting things on the internet.
Exactly.
The last question of building your backdrop is, are there any vast global events that have happened recently? And for that, you can also use random roll history tables on page
okay. I think I've
136.
found. Okay, 136.
And I think if I remember correctly, let me have a look at it. Yeah, so it's like big world-spanning catastrophes and dramatic changes.
Okay.
And you can
let me see.
define, like, we could define 3 of them if we want. One of them is probably going to be this sudden rise and, well, creation and rise of the revolutionary France style country and the coalitions against it. So we could define that one anyway. I'll put that in as one because it is, because that's gonna be something that has changed the world around them quite recently.
Okay, yeah. So I was just finding the sheet, the page.
State of Mert. Revolutionary state of Mert.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, that's one. And then do you want to do a couple more? Wait, there's history construction.
Yeah. What table do you want me to roll on, or do we want to just pick one? Or
which one is it? Wait, just gonna look through.
historical crises.
Historical. There's also one that's. Oh yeah, historical crisis. Probably. Yep.
I could
Yeah,
roll
could
on
be
that
one.
table.
There's also one. A few pages further down on page 139. That's historical events, and then it gives you an event, and you can build something around it.
Okay, how about I roll on the historical crisis and the historical event, and that gives us our 3. Okay, because I like rolling on it. I like.
And then and then we'll see what we get, and then we'll create an actual historical event based on whatever the result is, how it affects.
I mean, and
the
this
world.
I think this helps separate it from like the actual history, because I do want to move away from that somewhat. So a D100 for the historical crisis. That's a 2. Barbarian invasion.
Wow. Barbarian invasions.
I don't know if that's gonna work. I might have to reroll.
It can. I mean, you don't have to, like, how do you define barbarians? I mean, barbarians are always barbarians only to the people who call them barbarians. So
that's true, I guess.
So it could be a completely different invasion that was seen as barbarians to the people they were invading, or are as remembered as barbarians to the people.
What if? Okay, I think I've got an idea. What if?
What you can also do is flip it and like take 20 if you want. But.
No, it's okay. Here's what I think. Okay, what if we say that while it has been peaceful for the kingdom, there's kind of been they tried to do like an expedition of sorts to another part of the world, and while none of the other big powers directly got involved, they kind of fucked them over. So the barbarian invasion is that our kingdom tried to do a bit of invading. Well, they called it an expedition, but it was invading. And that's where the tension lies, because it's like, haha, we can't be mad at you because we don't have written proof that you fucked us over, but we fucking know you fucked us over. Like, that's where that whole espionage world tension thing comes in.
I like the idea, because that is like, barbarians are the revolutionary state. You know?
Yes.
They're like, oh, they're revolutionaries and this democracy stuff, and they don't have a monarch anymore.
Yes, exactly.
Such barbarism.
Yeah.
So
or you can also flip it that they're the bad guys, that they, like literally they're just going in like, yeah, we're gonna fuck some shit up. Who's gonna stop us? And that's with sandbox. The GM can decide which they want to take. Are they the good guys?
I imagine also, there's also like there's been periods in the revolution as well. You know, if you take the French Revolution, the mass of different governments and completely different ideals that they held at completely different times.
And building off again, this is where the historical stuff comes in. The Napoleonic period is very much, well, it's not entirely opinionated. Bad things were done by all the powers, but it's a lot harder to pin down if the events can be seen as purely bad or good, because it kind of shaped Europe in such a profound way. As I said, the actions of Napoleon going into other countries was that the revolution, while it had subsided, the ideas of democracy and votes for people and the idea of nationalism, that you were a part of a country, not the subject of a king or a monarch, and that kind of national identity, you know, is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? That's kind of that whole debate. And I think that's interesting. So I kind of like the idea that we're not creating the good empire, the good kingdom, the bad kingdom. We're just creating a kingdom that does stuff.
But like you said, then a kingdom that does stuff, and then a people that for like basically for the first time are maybe seeing themselves as a nation, and the idea of a nation is forming. You know, the idea of nations as a thing, rather than I'm indeed.
I'm a merchant.
Technically, like under the dominion of the Bourbon household or whatever, but you know, my actual boss is this weird lord over there. Instead, it becomes, I'm a citizen of France, having all the rights and privileges and requirements thereof.
Exactly. I like the idea a lot, and then that kind of sets up, and that definitely would be a thing that has happened. That's not really something the characters themselves would interact with. They try to
create like it's recent, but how does that then? How did that shake up the world though?
Well, that's what I'm saying, because that's kind of like a catalyst that has created the tension. So like that's what I'm saying. Like the I'm just gonna call it Mert. I'll have to find a better name. The people of Mert can't get angry at
state of Mert.
The revolutionary state of Mert can't get angry at the other kingdoms because it doesn't have not proof, but like, you know, maybe the people that they were fighting were given weapons by them or whatever. So it's like, we can't go to war with you because we don't, but we know you did it. Like, you were there. We know that. And that's kind of where the tension comes in, because people, and that's where the espionage comes in, because they're like influencing smaller powers or trying to mess with them in another way. Do you want me to do the historical events now? The D100
I'm going
for that?
to define their opponents currently as the coalition. But,
okay,
that's
I like
a placeholder as well. Like,
yes, it
because
is.
Also it's a loose coalition, and I mean, it feels a bit like we're adhering too much to the Napoleonic era.
We can
call
mix
it the
things
coalition, up. And then the first coalition, and the second coalition, and then the third coalition, and then the fourth, and the fifth, and the sixth, and the seventh, and
at that point they said, if we've not won yet,
then
you're in the tower. Okay, so do you want me to roll for historical events now?
Yes, you may.
Yes, okay. That's a 9. Wow, my D100 has been very low. A 9 is consequences. Pick an event of a prior age. It had long-term consequences that were good for a bad event or bad for a good event. So I guess we have to now have... Oh! I know what we could have. We could say that something happened in the revolution that is now only just actually rearing its head. So something happened that they have now gone, oh, whoa. And perhaps bad would be more tense, if it will. I'm trying to think what, in the real setting, which I kind of don't want to do in this, because in the real world, what happened, one of the ones that comes to mind was when Britain came in to stop France. They destroyed a great deal of their timber supplies, which basically meant that they were fucked trying to build a big navy to combat them later down the line, and it stunted the French shipbuilding process, blah, 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 blah. Perhaps, I don't know, I'm trying to think of something interesting that would kind of be more, not peaceful.
It also has to, this is global scale, so it has to have some kind of effect that
everyone is thinking by.
Yeah.
What if...
Are there things that the rest of the world might have been reliant on?
How about we link it back to the
state for?
Well, I was going to say, how about we
the access of, or maybe our version of Britain destroyed.
What if we go for kind of what we're talking about with the magical fields in context, but what we're talking about the military reforms. So perhaps what has happened in the past is that they've been advancing the field of the magic fields. That'll probably need a term at some point. And that has led to this kind of, we can now conquer and make vassals and all this kind of, and puppets and all this kind of stuff a lot more easier. And now our borders are a lot more open. We can now expand them again. It's kind of like if we were making a much bigger historium thing, it would be like there are these periods where they learn how to refine the plants into more powerful beacons of energy. And there's been a new kind of shift in that way of thinking.
Yeah, and that's also something that, even if, especially with this whole espionage layer underneath, even if if the revolutionary state of Mert came up with it and tried to keep it secret, it's information that would eventually probably get out there somehow. And then obviously, it's changing the way everyone in the world moves about in these, uses these magnetic fields.
Okay. What is next in the book? Is there another table, or is there...
unless you want to add another global event.
Well, we already have the fact that the revolution has to have already happened. So I think that's 3, and I think that's a nice whole-ish
number. Because you don't want endlessly large.
I will say,
defining events.
These are all really interesting, world prompts that I'm reading here. It's really interesting.
No, it is. It is a really, really good book for if you want a sort of framework to help your book, because everything you have here you can use it or not, but if you follow it along a bit, you're already going to have a fairly well-defined idea of this world that you were trying to create. And then you can do whatever you want with it after that as well.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Or you can just keep following it and get more and more detail and information about areas. So now we have the world itself and the backdrop and stuff, everything like that defined. Unless there's any areas or aspects of the world you'd like to add to.
No, not right now.
Otherwise, we're gonna move into the region, so the actual area.
How long you want to go for? I'm fine, but I know you're an hour ahead, so I don't want to go.
I was gonna say like maybe what we've been doing. We've been streaming for roughly 2 hours now, and maybe another 20 minutes, half an hour.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, no, I'm totally fine with that. I know it's about to turn 10 here, but that's 11 for you.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I have to work in the morning.
Exactly. That's why I was thinking that. It is a Sunday after all. Yeah. Okay, look. I assume it's the kingdom next.
Region. The region.
Region. Sorry.
On page 118. So yeah. Everyone following along at home, you can see it next to me. The first part is the part you love the most. You have to name the region.
No. Okay. I did say near the end of the stream I would have I'd have a name from it.
So yeah, let me just type that up. So region we're on now. Name the region. Region. I mean, we could once again just put a placeholder in, like.
No, I have an idea. Wait, let me.
Weird, strange Europe, but you know, I don't want
I have an idea.
Tie it too much to real world places. That's one of the pitfalls of world building. I find, like, if you tie it in to things you know or historical eras and then get bogged down on you know that as an idea, and then like, oh well, it has to be basically, or well, not has to be, but you start using these European references and creating basically a fantasy version. Whereas you can do anything with it basically, because
I was gonna say, what if we call it like yeah, I think we will need a placeholder. I'm really bad with names, that's the problem.
No, that's fine. We had the exact same problem with the one I did with Sofino. We ended up with this region called the Scar, basically because it has a big canyon right down the middle of it. And the world itself is called the Incandescence, which neither of us liked and was a placeholder name, but ended up sticking.
Yeah, it's always the rich placeholder name. Because then you get attached to it. You're like, oh, but I named it this. You're like, no, you got to be.
We're not keeping the revolutionary state of Mert, though. But.
No, we're not. Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, we might have to give it a placeholder name because I genuinely can't think of. And this is meant to be like, is this the kingdom or is this?
This is the region. So this would be like, in Napoleonic terms, the equivalent of Europe, probably.
Okay, yeah, I thought so.
It's
yeah,
where
we'll
the
probably
kingdom
have
is placed. Yeah.
We could say the continent. I know that's the worst name.
Stole that.
I know. That's why it makes a good placeholder name, because you always look at that and go, "We are not keeping that. That's my tips. That's on me. That's mine."
Well, I mean, pretty much we can't keep it either because otherwise, I'm sure the Witcher wouldn't be very happy. I'm pretty sure that's the name of the region.
Yeah, I'm fairly sure it is. As I said, if we get around to doing another one of these, I will come up with a better name. I promise.
Yeah,
I just need to like.
What do you mean?
So if
you're signed up for like at least 50 episodes now.
Oh my god! Oh.
Didn't you?
I should have read the contract. No, I don't.
You don't get paid. You still have to turn up for 50
reading contracts is for nerds. If I've learned anything.
Oh.
So, if I'm reading this correctly,
yeah.
oh sorry, the next thing is
is
choose about 6 major geographical features. Am I right with that?
Yes. And there's tables for that as well.
Oh, is there? Oh,
yes.
I actually kind of want to do tables.
Oh, well, then you can go to page 120.
120.
And then it has a geographical construction, and if you go in from that, there's like D20 tables. There's one roll terrain feature details, which you can use for large details or small ones.
So there's significant terrain features.
Yeah, significant terrain features is sort of like, yeah, they're definitely large scale ones. There's another one a bit further down on page 123.
Yeah, one roll terrain feature.
Like,
I think we'll go. Oh, sorry.
They're more detailed, lower key ones, but like you can create an idea from that and make it larger if you want.
What if I roll? If I roll is 6. I see, but if we're doing a whole continent and it's more kind of a generalist, maybe I should just roll 60 20s. I pick the numbers, then we can kind of
because this is like, you know, once again, I will try and stop doing this, but to bring it back to Europe, like one of them could well be the Pyrenees, for instance, as a mountain group, and you know, it's defining geographical features of the area, of the entire.
Exactly. So here are our 60 20s. Okay, so the first one is a 20, which coincidentally is weathered mountains. A significant skirt of hills is common. The rain shadow is likely to be limited due to the rounded low mountains. So, yeah, that is our Pyrenees equivalency. Do we want to say, how about when we're talking about these geological features, do we want to put them in the context of our revolutionary Mert kingdom?
Yeah, I mean, like we can, I'd say like we'd do this question, these 6 features, and then sort of finish up.
Decide
and
where
then
everything.
Well, no, we can go through them one by one as they come up, talk about them a bit where we think they'll place on the map, and then that sort of sets it up for. I can make a rough sketch of things by next time, and then.
And I can give you names
well.
and stuff.
Yeah, and then we can chuck names. So these weathered mountains, what are you seeing them as?
I'm thinking maybe this is not the exact words they use actually, but I'm just double checking. I've not used. They don't say like. They haven't. I'm thinking that they are a very hard boundary between 2 or more nations. Like, we are not going to be able to cross those mountains anytime soon. Like you can obviously, they are
people
traversable.
Could cross the mountains, but armies.
But big armies, So they've been a natural boundary between, and the 2 or more nations have had pretty concise boundaries there. They're like, we don't, we've not gone to war, but maybe they will, maybe they won't, maybe they'll be allies. Who knows? But I like that.
One of them going to be the revolutionary state of Mert, or
I think that'd be good. I think that'd be kind of an interesting geographical feature for both players and GMs to play with. Maybe that's like a more dangerous area, or maybe that's like a super chill, safe peace zone. Who knows? Again, that's up to us. We can think about that.
Well, it can be both as well. Like it could be
that's very
chill
true.
Peace zone in comparison to fighting large armies in the field. But it could also be horrendously dangerous in tiny skirmishes with little groups of people up in the mountains. So one of them is Mert, and I like it as well because also, you're gonna need some way of structuring Mert so that they don't just get obliterated by these coalitions from all sides, and then go
big features. And the other benefit,
big blocking mountains help.
And again, little writing fact, because I like these. Big features are really easy to write because you just you say, well, there's some mountains, and most people know what mountains are, and you don't have to know jack shit about mountains so long as you can describe them fairly
is that
convincingly.
How you're meant to do it? You're not meant to go on and look at like, oh, I'm writing this bit about mountains now.
No, yeah, I've learned the hard way how distracted you. I'm a big procrastinator, and one of my biggest pet issues is getting too fixated on trying to be absolutely accurate with the things like, oh, I've put a Mediterranean-like climate. I must learn everything about the Mediterranean to make it exactly. Yeah, I know. As I said, as long as your audience can understand it. Obviously, though, you have to write something. You're not allowed to just go, oh yeah, there's like mountains. What's in the mountains? Use your imagination. Well, no, that's what you're for. I should have played a game. No, you. What was in the mountains? I don't know. Mountain lions. Well, you got mauled by one. Oh, but I was hoisted by my own petard. Yep.
I really want to run a game like that.
But then the players will always be
very,
like,
very short.
Lots of gold and treasure. Well, there's lots of gold and treasure for you. Yes.
No, see, because I like the idea that initially, if you ask them questions like that, they'll be like, yeah, what things do you find in mountains? They might well be like, oh yeah, a mountain lion. Oh, you're attacked by a mountain lion. And then eventually, they'll learn, and then it'll be like, oh no, it's all fine, everything's great. Oh, and there's a big pile of treasure there, and then that's the moment to end the game.
Yeah, well, but when and then they go like, oh, can we get some hot chocolate? The hot chocolate is spilled on you. What? It's just hot chocolate. Yeah, but it's hot. You gotta be careful around that.
You've been scalded. Take D4 scalding damage.
And then you're like, you are rude to the
wizard.
waitress.
A level 1 old school wizard. Oh no.
And dead.
Yeah.
I think I was in a game where somebody did take damage from like eating or drinking something very hot, which was very funny. I think it was within the okay. Oh shit, my phone's gone off, so I hope that hasn't deleted the dice roll.
Oh dear.
It has not. We're okay.
So what's the
second one? 16, a sand desert. Now we have definitely dwelled away from Europe, so
good.
That's good. Perhaps the desert is.
I mean, I would say perhaps too far because basically, like you have the whole Egypt campaign. So.
Well, I think that would be a good. That's definitely its own nation because
the sand desert.
It's exactly.
Yeah, that's also one of those features that is gonna define an area.
Exactly, and it's hard to. But
multiple different nations though, but it's definitely Sorry.
I would definitely no, it's all right. I definitely say it's more southernly. I'm not sure how big I want to make it. Size is also going to be kind of a hard thing, but I guess when you do the sketch, it'll be.
This is one of my like. Don't want to say a pet peeve, but that's another thing. Like, it's a hot climate. It must be more southerly.
Oh really? Oh sorry.
Yeah, well, it isn't necessary though, is it? Because you're creating. Well, like I have no problem with it, and definitely also not in this case. I just want to point out that you don't have to do that.
Yeah, you don't have to apply by
because you're creating.
That's true. Or maybe the magical field, its effect.
In the north.
Yeah.
It's the
magical.
The
the magical field creates desert-like environments, which gives some kind of benefit. I'm not too sure what, but that's perhaps.
It's hot and sandy.
Yeah, I don't know.
You feel like you're at the beach all the time.
Oh, that's it. All the people are super chill constantly. They're just so relaxed.
As long as there's also a cool sea breeze.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's perfect.
If there isn't, then it's just
Oh yeah, no, it's just awful. It's hot. You're sweaty. You're like, ooh. But it's like a nice beach. Yeah. No, I'm not too sure. I wasn't expecting to get sand desert. I might have to think about that a bit more.
So, is it a nation? Is it several nations?
how about we go with several, because I feel like deserts kind of do need to be big things to really kind of give that gravitas. Mountains are quite big, but you can't really build a nation or multiples. Well, and also a desert may be big, but it is still like there are areas where you could build it and traverse, whereas mountains are like hard to traverse in directions, so it makes more sense for them to be a barrier, whereas a desert may be a barrier in one sense, but it doesn't mean that it's a barrier totally, if that tracks. If you catch my drift. I just realized that Switzerland is very mountainous and they are quite a successful country, and so I realized that
but
you can't make
by
any
also using that mountain as defense, or that group.
That is also true, and also they're not.
It's intraversable.
Not all their mountains. I think Italy has some of the mountain range, doesn't it? And France. Yeah, it's okay. So that makes sense. But I think a desert being shared by multiple powers is interesting.
What's it? The glacial railway, which is one of those nice scenic railway routes that
I didn't know that.
One day, starts in Italy. Well,
interesting. I didn't know that.
It doesn't. But there's a connecting train that starts in Italy, which
it's
basically
the Pyrenees,
gives you
isn't it?
No, in the Alps, it gives you sort of
Alps. Okay, sorry.
A move up through the start of the Alps, and then you get higher and higher, and then you move into Switzerland, and then you get the connecting train, which is the Glacial Express or something like that goes all the way up through the Alps to roughly near the Matterhorn. So you can I just like all those train routes that I'll probably never do.
Definitely.
Also, I like them, but you're like, in reality you're sitting in a train for 8 hours or something.
That's true. Well, it's not like the longest train journey. Like
I might enjoy it, but it's not really a holiday that.
No, that's true.
I could convince people to go.
Your like infant son is staring at you like, don't you fucking think about it, man. I'm not
he's
going on no
asleep.
train. Oh, well, there we go. Perfect.
Fine. Other people on the train might not like it as much. So we have several nations in a sand desert somewhere.
Yeah. Each with their own kind of sphere of influence, but that encompasses the desert. Like perhaps the desert is natural, perhaps it is the spheres. I don't know. We'll just leave it to that. Sorry, that one was a bit lighter, but that's because I don't really know. I wasn't really sure what to do with deserts.
Well, it wasn't. Probably wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't one that I was expecting either. But that's the fun of random rolls, and then
exactly.
It can create things that later on you'll be like, oh, I'm really glad that's in there actually.
10 is light forest, so it's interspersed with other terrains. So it's probably the
light forest.
We could say
a very
that
large light forest, or like an entire region between several countries that is,
Well, if perhaps that's the interstitial area between quite a few nations, and that, what's the word I'm looking for? That this kind of large forest is the creation of the fields, and this is kind of where it is most charged. So like who's taking that land, who's in possession of it, who's in possession of the trees, is determining the borders and who's under whose thrall and stuff like that. So it's kind of and I don't think it's wrong to be comparing it, because we literally have used the keyword Napoleonic. That's my doing. If we look at like the borders of like where France and Germany and Belgium and the Netherlands, like there's a lot of people there. So that kind of area could be our.
Well,
but we might have more, we might have less.
Whole area, sort of. If you take the bit of France, and then the bit of Belgium where the Ardennes and stuff is. It's more dense forest, but then Luxembourg and Germany, that's all one large area of forestry that basically covers that whole area. But that's several nations that are,
I like it though.
so
I like
will
it.
Mert be one of those as well?
Mert will have, that'll probably be the most chaotic. Like, there'll be lots of people there, and they'll definitely be like, very close to necking each other, to use a less polite way of describing it. Like, everyone is quite close to each other's throats, and that whole region and that can be quite an important region due to the natural resource that's there. The trees, of course. Whoever owns the trees. Oh God, there's a slogan. Whoever owns the trees owns the world. Now I've got to have the revolutionary Mert emperor say that. If I control the trees, I control the world. Oh my God, I've turned this into
people
Captain
from the
Planet.
sand desert just look at you from afar,
We've got these. I'm trying to think what would be appropriate. I was about to say cactus, but it's more of kind of like a American thing. It's not really the same. Probably some kind of shrub or acacia. Acacia, maybe. I don't know how.
No. I like cactuses because you can make mezcal and tequila with them. But no, that's one specific type of. Well, I think only tequila is one specific type of cactus, the blue agave. But there you go.
Interesting. If we're moving on, 9 is. God, 9 is.
And tequila is a specific region, I think.
Right. Okay. I don't know alcohol.
Don't quote
9.
me on that.
No, but don't quote us on anything we say.
Never quote us on anything we say.
No. I am not sourced for my
sometimes.
historical facts. Yeah.
9
is jungle.
Ooh. How are you gonna shoehorn that one in?
Maybe. And I know I'm about to say something.
I mean, it's a very biodiverse area.
It is. I have a weird idea, right?
It could be What
if, right? We say that, and I know this is weird. We say that, and I'm going to continue using equivalencies because I think that's interesting. We say that the equivalency for perhaps a. See, I'm kind of torn. On the one hand, I kind of want to have the island, well, not an island, but like the Britain analog be a jungle, if that makes sense. Or that maybe, obviously, Britain analog is
possible because I've mentioned this to you before, probably, mainly because you live there, well, near there, but you know, like Scotland and parts around British Columbia and stuff being subtropical rainforests.
Yes, you have mentioned that,
China and stuff like that. So it is entirely possible that, like, if we shift this strange Britain island up a bit, then it could well be a subtropical rainforest, which is a jungle, but not a tropical jungle.
And what I also like about that is it justifies the autonomy of resources, because I always think, I don't know, I just kind of like the idea of like, well, because the alternative was, I was thinking maybe that's the equivalency of like Russia, where it's like, you know, everyone's squabbling over these like smaller interspersed woodlands, but if you go over there, it's like this packed area, but that has its own downside, where it's like, oh, it's packed, but we can't, like, this field is just insane, like, we can't control it.
Dense,
it's beyond
chaotic,
our
the high magic users get nosebleeds just standing
oh god, now that I've said that,
you could have two areas like that. Then you could say that on the one hand you have this island area, and on the other hand something like a vast country like
the reason I'm now partial to that is because it also could bring in your mud, because what if this kind of like large rainforest like area has its own large nation, but they don't control it as much. And one of the factors is like even the mud rebels against their intentions. Like everything wants to do its own thing, and it's like, no, fuck you. This world, it's like this area is very large and controlled by one nation, but it's more de facto rather than actual control. If that tracks, I don't know.
Yeah, writing it down right now.
Then there is. I've just realised 9 and 13 are jungle and rainforest. We don't have a 13, but it's interesting to me that they delineated between the two. 3 is blasted lands, radioactive or scorched over by ancient war. Many ruins are likely.
Yeah, we got that for the Scar, but that sort of worked in well with it. But here it's.
We could have our own
whole area of cracked mud, sort of dried out area.
Yeah. What if we go for like a no man's land kind of thing?
Yeah.
Like it's the
area.
Yeah, like a deforested area that has succumbed to the effects of deforestation.
Yeah.
And like nobody wants it. Like it's just unclaimed. It's difficult. It has indirectly become a barrier because nobody wants to traverse this. Like, the fuck, this is horrible. I don't know where that would be though. Like, it would have to be in the warpath of one of the people, like one of the groups. But at the same time, that might have to be put on the drawing board because I'm not too sure where I would like that.
Well, we can look at it because it doesn't necessarily have to be like on the border with Mert, for instance. Depending on how the wars and stuff have gone down, they may have fought somewhere else and completely abandoned that place. That could be the end result of the expedition and the whole part where the other nations kind of tried to fuck it up.
Oh yeah, no, I like that. There's a bit, more, well, less moral it's less ambiguity. It's now more, you guys are just assholes for like the poor nation that got invaded is like, what the nobody is you're all terrible.
Everyone involved is basically like,
apart from the people that actually got invaded who are like, what the fuck. Okay, I like that. I like that a lot. The final one is ancient farmland. A large stretch of land was re-engineered for optimal farming. Oof. Perhaps they are the most out of the loop nations, and they become an important go-to for food supplies. And that's kind of their whole field, is that they are magic is literally just making the soil and the mud very very fertile and good for crops and stuff. So they have to be swayed or manipulated or encouraged to give more food to one group or coalition.
It could also be like maybe they don't farm actual crops there, they might farm the mud and then they provide people with this super
definitely
densely packed soil that can full of nutrients and stuff that can grow plants very quickly. And they farm mud.
I love that. That's awesome.
And
I like that.
Rather important, but they're important to everyone, and everyone has to be nice to them.
And they're aware of it, kind of thing. We know we're important. Okay, I like that a lot, actually. I think that's all of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, that's all of the stuff. Yes, this is. I like the random tables. It does kind of help. Break things up a lot. Yeah.
Well,
you definitely end up with worlds you weren't expecting.
You might not have thought of to start with if you were just trying to think up of
definitely,
like you said, it sort of breaks that linear idea that might build up in your mind if you're trying to build a world from scratch without anything else to sort of hook onto.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And you have your own preconceptions and such, which you have to break.
Precisely, so. Yeah, that's the thing. And if you're doing it on your own, it's very hard to realise that you have them sometimes, and that you need to find some way of breaking through that. Okay, but I think we have a very good start on this. Definitely have like a whole scope of the world, backdrop, what it is, defined, what's happened, kind of thing in large scale. And then we also have this idea of geography for the zoom in a bit on the region. So we'll look at that some more next time.
Yeah.
And yeah, have you had any ideas for names yet?
I think I might have to save that for the next session. I think I have to break my promise and do the next session. Yeah.
That's definitely fine. I think. Yeah, we'll come up with a name in the meantime, and then we'll let everyone know what it is next time.
Yeah.
Which won't be immediately because I'm on holiday next week.
Good for you.
So
excellent. Yeah.
I won't be around to stream because otherwise my wife would be very annoyed with me.
Yes,
Rightly
no,
so.
I can imagine. Yeah. No, exactly. Time off from everything.
Yeah, but so it's probably about 2 weeks I'd have to skip because we're gone from Friday to Sunday.
No bother.
To the Sunday after that.
Yeah.
So that's 2 Sundays in between. Yeah. But after that, if you still feeling up for it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we've also got Kursk as well to get back to at some point.
Yeah, so, true. But we'll see.
we'll juggle stuff.
But yeah, I can see if I can put 2 overlays up at the same time. And now we'll roll on this table to see what's happening in this region, and then whilst we're doing that, I'll move all of these tanks here.
I have been keeping up with a series which covers the World War II week by week, and they're talking about they're in 1942, and they're covering the invasion, Fall Bleu, the invasion of. And what I found really fascinating is, I can't remember if they bring it up in the videos. I hope I'm not plagiarizing them, but what I found fascinating is the similarity between the Germans' invasion and Napoleon's invasion, where the Russians have the ingenious idea of just not being there to get killed or encircled. It's like, you can expend all your resources getting to the really far off places. We'll be waiting there for you. And when you do get there, all tired and knackered, we will beat the shit out of you. And you're like, I guess almost 100, no, more than 100 years on, that really paid off, just sticking with that strategy.
Pretty much. That's also one of those things that, like, the 1940s, technology-wise, we tend to look at them back from now. So you sort of, because they have tanks and things that exist now but are more modern now, that we have more modern versions of now, you seem to, you have like this idea, well, I feel like it's also very much promoted in the way it's the World War II is taught and stuff like that. You have this idea that everything was a lot more technologically advanced than it was.
Oh, exactly, but
for instance, most infantry and even mechanized infantry, and definitely motorized infantry, like start definitely in France, and then in Russia as well. You know, it was horse and cart, and things were carried by cart to the front.
A lot of people forget that
there
Germany
weren't enough
was
trucks
still
around.
Yeah.
So
Germany was still very agricultural, and they used horses extensively in their wars. And I think what also people forget is that the speed of which Operation Barbarossa occurred was actually, at least for a majority of the army, the same speed that Napoleon did when conquering Russia over 100 years at the time.
You have to bring your supplies up by horse and cart.
If you have to walk, because the infantry literally were walking there.
Then there's a
or
cart
using horses.
carrying a bunch of boxes to keep you. And then you had the part that tanks could go a bit faster, but you know, also they had their supplies had
resources.
To keep up with them. Because if your tank has no fuel, then it's a box that's sitting there. You do
the things that the German commanders totally did, the massive ignorance of their logistics, and have the tanks go really far ahead and then run out of fucking supplies and have to wait. Because that's a really effective means.
That was what I was gonna get to. So you definitely hit on that, and then and
we somehow managed to talk about World War II.
Well,
yes, I think I wanted to end on that because that's an interesting comparison that I've made. Because we were talking about Napoleon and Kursk. So I was
it's definitely and sort of where that whole fable of like invading Russia in winter comes from.
Even though they invaded in summer, and
just got
not to make credit to them.
Winter, but yes, I think that's where we'll leave it for tonight. Nye, thank you very much for
of course, a pleasure
for joining me and for basically coming up with most of this world. As you know, it's very much your baby now.
Oh God, no. I guess you already have quite a few babies, so it would be a bit much to ask you to take on another.
I mean, just and like they don't work either. I mean, I wouldn't mind if I could put them to work now. I'm very happy with the two I have.
Yes, you're of course joking.
I am definitely joking. Otherwise I wouldn't survive very long. Once again, rightly so. No, don't put children to work, please.
No, don't ever do that.
No, let them be children.
Exactly.
And on that strange social note, we'll end tonight. Thank you, Diesel Shop, for joining us in chat. Thank you, everyone else who is watch this on Twitch and is watching this back on YouTube later when it goes up. As usual, if you're watching on Twitch, please follow. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe and click the bell stuff. Leave us comments. Also join us on the Discord if you would like, and then you can talk to myself and Nye about how much we go on about historical information when we're meant to be building worlds or playing games.
Or doing anything. There's a lot of situations. You should watch the Cthulhu stream.
Where we that'll be up.
Oh God!
On Wednesday, join us for this is World War II with Cthulhu, but also over on Garblag
I'm a magician. There was a magician in North Africa. Oh Jesus, I'm being shot at. This is horrible. He was an advisor. Makes sense.
Nye, is there anything else you want to promote or tell us about before we leave?
I don't have anything in particular. If you check out Garblag,
that you want to throw.
No, I mean, if I'm being honest, you
don't like anyone.
No. I guess like I have a Twitter, but I don't really feel the point in promoting it because it's like, you know, it's fine here.
You have
If you join
at least 1,000 more followers than me, so don't worry.
all I'm gonna say was actually do what Lewis was saying. Like, if you are legitimately like, I want to know what Nye does, I would be very shocked if anybody asks that question. If you join Lewis's Discord, you can ask me, and then we can sort some stuff out. I don't really see the point in promoting if like if it's not needed. You know, I'm not that exciting really, so it's fine. But if you are desperate, you know, then I can share stuff on like Lewis's Discord and things.
No. And also, yeah, you can generally also find us on Garblag Games if you're on that
Of
Discord
course.
or want to join it or want to watch their shows, which are also pretty cool. Yeah, I think that's about it for tonight.
Yeah, we're all covered.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right, okay.
Thank you, everyone. And as usual,
Yes,
stay safe and stay gaming. Good night. Bye.
Bye-bye.